Hello everybody and welcome to another video of English No Big Deal. My name is Maddie.
And my name is David.
And today we are going to go over 15 phrases for Conversation 13 restaurant ratings. Now, this is just one out of the 75 conversations. So if you don't want to miss out on any of the other ones, be sure to subscribe to our channel and also like this video and help support us to continue making good content for you guys and help you learn. Now, why are these 15 phrases in Conversation 13 important?
Because Conversation 13 and these 15 phrases are really important in terms of ratings. So you can use the expressions to talk about the ratings or reviews of some places or some services that you are having. For example, if you go to a doctor or if you go to a restaurant or even a hotel, right? You would like to know the ratings that people give to that particular place or a person in advance in order to pick the best one for yourself, or even to decide whether you should go there or not. That's why these expressions are really important. And not only that, in the conversation, we show you guys how to do it as well. So maybe you should go on Google or you should go on some website in order to have those reviews or ratings before choosing a place or a service for yourself. That's why if you haven't watched the video, make sure that you watch it first and then go back to this video in order to learn these 15 phrases. So now, with everything that we have in mind about its importance, let's get started.
Number 1, to be nosy.
What are you looking at, Maddie? Oh, sorry, I don't mean to be nosy.
It's all good. I'm just planning a surprise party for my friend, so I'm just looking at some of the ratings of the bistros nearby.
The pronunciation you need to be aware of is upon the z in nosy. Don't change it to the s sound. Don't say no-see, no-see. That's not correct. No-z, z, nosy.
Nosy is an adjective and you use it to say that you are too curious or interested in other people's problems or business. And if they are just their problems and business, you don't want to get involved. That's why using this word means that you shouldn't be involved in their activity or business or problems. It's like any other adjectives. The word nosy can stand alone, it can stand in front of a noun, or you can also use it in an imperative. Let's say you're saying to somebody that don't be nosy, otherwise you'll get yourself in trouble. Now, in order to help you guys better understand this word's usage, let us give you some examples. The first example I have such nosy neighbors who always ask me who I bring over.
Oh, so they're always very curious about every single person you bring over. So they want to know who they are, where they're from, what they're doing there. They're being nosy. They're too curious.
And that is the matter that I don't want them to get involved because nobody wants to let the neighbors know who or what kind of guests that they're bringing over, right? And so by being too nosy, maybe the relationship is not gonna stay for a long time. It's hard to maintain.
When you have nosy neighbors like them, that means they're always trying to butt in and get into your business, knowing every single thing you're doing. Another great example, to maintain a good relationship with coworkers, it's best not to be nosy with them.
Now, this situation is also the same, right? Where you don't want to get involved in other people's business or problems. Maybe because the problem is uncomfortable for them to let other people know. That's why when you behave like you're nosy of their problems or about their problems, it might be hard to maintain that relationship.
It's very common in a lot of workplaces where if somebody gets in trouble, you always want to know why or what was the reason. So maybe you'll go ask your other coworkers, hey, do you know what she got in trouble for? And they might tell you, don't be nosy. It's none of your business.
Number 2, low priced, moderately priced, and high priced. That sounds like fun.
Kind of, but it's a bit stressful though because the others don't want anything high-priced or extravagant.
For the pronunciation, all you need to be aware of here is the ed part at the end of the word price. So the word price itself is ended in an S sound and is a voiceless consonant. That's what the ed part is, also a consonant, the way we pronounce it. So we have st for the ending sounds of the word priced, priced. Don't say priced. Don't say it like that. So priced, priced.
Now to use all of these phrases correctly, first we'll go over low priced. So if something is low priced, that means it is inexpensive and cheap. But maybe you don't want to use the word cheap because it may be a little bit rude to use it in certain situations, saying, oh, that necklace is so cheap. And they might assume you're talking about the quality of the necklace. So instead of saying cheap in that case, you will say, oh, this necklace is low priced. It's a little bit more polite than the word cheap. And if something is moderately priced, that means it's affordable. It's in the price range of what that product might cost. It's not too high and it's not too low either. It is in the middle range. So it is moderately priced. And the last one, high priced. So if something is high priced, it is expensive, maybe not affordable for a lot of people. And one misconception that some people have is thinking that high priced items are really great in quality, but you may never know. So again, high price is just extremely expensive. Now, since the usage for these words is pretty straightforward, let's give you some examples so they make more sense. One example being, some people believe that high-priced items are high in quality and long-lasting too. So that just means that they think that if they go and buy something that is more expensive, then they think it'll last them a long time.
Maybe it's true when it comes to a very well-known brand. For example, talking about shoes. So we have shoes from Nike are going to last for a long time. And the price is pretty high or expensive as well. So the shoes from Nike are also high priced and they're gonna last for a long time. But not all products will be the same. So this truth is not applied to every single product that we are using. Some of the products can be high priced and they can be long lasting. But some of the products, you pay for a lot of money, but probably after a week or two of using it, now it's getting worse, it's getting bad, and you have to replace it with a new one.
So in those cases, the people that are making the money, they make that product really cheaply and they'll make it high price so they have more profit.
Just like how it is in the next example that I have here for you guys. I thought the house was a bargain, but now I understand it was low priced because it was falling apart.
Also, the house was very inexpensive and affordable, but the only reason it was like that is because it started falling apart. The people that had it before you, maybe they didn't want to deal with it, so they sold it for a low price, hoping that somebody might think it would be a bargain. Number 3, friendly.
So I'm trying to find one that's family friendly and non-smoking and still offers great food, but it's inexpensive.
Now, the pronunciation you need to be aware of is upon the D sound in friendly. We stop the D sound. We don't say friendly. We don't say it like that. It sounds awkward, even though it's correct, but don't say it that way. Stop the D and say friendly, friendly. And that is it for its pronunciation.
The word friendly itself means a very nice attitude that you have towards somebody or something. But we're not talking about how friendly can stand alone in order to become an adjective. But we're talking about how it's used in compound adjectives. So first of all, you need to know what a compound adjective is. So compound adjectives contain two words. The first part is a noun, and the second part, of course, is the word friendly. Let me give you some examples. The first one I have is eco-friendly. The second one As in the conversation we had, we said family friendly. The third one is pet friendly. And the last one is user friendly. Now, let's go through each and every single one of them to see or to know what they mean. So the first one is eco-friendly. That means something that is really friendly to the environment. So it's not going to do any harm to the environment, like electric cars are really eco-friendly because electric cars are using electricity, not gas or diesel. That's why it's not going to harm the environment. And the second one is family friendly. If a place is family friendly, that means it's accepting all ages. So all of your family members can go there. So most restaurants are family friendly because they have to serve elderly people as well as kids, right? But except for bars, because bars often have some kind of age restriction. So you have to be at some certain age or you have to be above 16 or 18 in order to enter some bars because they are selling alcoholic drinks and stuff. The third one is pet friendly. If a place or a house is pet friendly, that means pets are allowed. And the last one is user friendly. This term is commonly used in talking about some of the programs or applications. So if a program or an application is user friendly, that means everybody can use it. It's easy to use. So you don't have to have some special technique or skills or even expertise in order to use it. Let me give you some example. Because I have a cat, so my apartment has to be pet friendly.
If your apartment isn't pet friendly, then that means you cannot bring your cat in there. And most people feel that their pets are a part of their family. So it is essential to find a pet-friendly apartment.
Exactly. And the reason that some of the places, for example, houses or apartments where you have to share the common spaces with other people, all the tenants, is not pet friendly is because the tenants or the people that are already living in it are allergic to cats and dogs. So they don't want you to bring in any animals or pets. That's why it's really important to know if the place that you are about to rent or you are about to buy is pet friendly. If you have a pet like a cat or a dog.
Another example, automotive companies are racing to design eco-friendly cars to help preserve our environment. So a lot of automotive companies are competing with each other to make sure that the cars they design are friendly to our environment. They're not going to damage the environment. They're not going to harm it any further than what it already is.
Maybe they're trying to compete in designing cars like hybrid cars or electric cars because these are the types of cars that do less harm to the environment because they don't use gas or they use less gas and they reduce a significant amount of emission to the environment. Number 4, be ahead of you or somebody. Seems like you have a lot of work ahead of you. The only pronunciation point here is about the connection between the word ahead and of. So ahead ends in the D sound and of starts with a vowel, a sound. So when you link it, you'll have ahead of. So be ahead of yourself or somebody.
Native speakers use this phrase in a variety of situations. So one situation can be if somebody or something is ahead of you, that means that they are earlier than you in doing something. So one example being maybe you have a task that you need to do in the morning, but your brother has already done that task. So he is ahead of you. He's already finished that thing earlier than you have. So in competition, maybe you're competing to meet deadlines and the person is ahead of you. That just means that they've submitted and finished the projects earlier than you have. Something else to take note of is the word way. We add this in and before ahead of to emphasize how early something is. So way ahead of, and then you or time. And all this is just emphasizing, again, how early something is. Going back to the competition example, they've submitted the projects way ahead of schedule. So they've submitted the projects way earlier or much earlier than it was supposed to be. One example, My boss asks me to submit the projects way ahead of schedule so we have time to revise it. So I'm using way here to emphasize how early he wants me to finish and submit the projects so we have time to go over it. So maybe he wants me to do it 2 or even 3 weeks in advance.
And another example, when I was still a high schooler, I was always ahead of the rest of the class in math.
So were you earlier in finishing things for math?
Not only that, but my knowledge for math in high school was always better than any of my classmates. That's why I called myself way ahead or ahead of the rest of my class for math.
Oh, so I understand now. That just means that if you're ahead in math and everybody else is studying 6th grade math, but if you're ahead, maybe you're already studying 8th grade math. So you're ahead by 2 years. This is something that is common in a lot of US high schools and even Canadian high schools. Some people, if they understand 6th grade math already, and they can have a chance to jump to 8th grade math and start studying way ahead of the rest of their class. Number 5, to have somebody or something.
But do you have to book a reservation at the restaurant beforehand if you want to have a lot of people seated together?
Now, the pronunciation you need to keep in mind is upon the word have. Don't change that v to a f. Don't say half. That means something completely different than have.
This expression is used when you want to talk about something is arranged or planned or done. And this expression is a little bit different from to have somebody do something for you. Because with this one, you are talking about if you ask somebody or you convince somebody to do something for you. Let's say at work, you have a subordinate. So instead of doing some work, you are asking them or you are convincing them to do it for you, right? But this expression is a little bit different in terms of its structure and meaning. So notice the part that's coming after somebody or pronoun that you want to use. You have to use a past participle instead of an infinitive in the previous one. Now going back to the previous example that you have your subordinate do the work for you, now you can use this expression to talk about the same thing. So it's gonna be, you have your work done by delegating it to your subordinate. Now, in the conversation that I had with Maddie, I asked her what she needed to do in order to have all the people seated together. And remember the structure that I previously told you guys? So you can actually use that one to talk about the same thing here. So instead of saying what she needed to do to have all the people seated together, now you can say she'll have staff there arrange all people into the same table. And it has the same meaning. The first example that I have for you guys is, for Mom's birthday, if you can cook some dishes, I'll have all the decoration taken care of.
So you're making plans and preparations to make sure that the decorations are going to all be correct and okay for Mom's birthday.
And that means the decoration is going to be taken care of, it's going to be arranged, it's going to be done, it's going to be planned.
The next example, nowadays, when you order groceries online, you can have them delivered straight to your door. So this just means when you are ordering your groceries, they can actually deliver and bring them to your door. You're arranging to have them delivered to your door.
And notice the word delivered here has an ed part at the end and is in its past participle. So have the food or whatever you want to buy online delivered to your door. Delivered to your door. Number 6, disturb. You can reserve an entire room in a restaurant?
Well, some if they have the space available. And that's one of the other things that I'm looking for so that our party doesn't disturb any of the other patrons in the restaurant.
For this word's pronunciation, you need to be aware of the B sound at the end of this word. So disturb, disturb. So the B sound, notice the way that I really enunciated the B sound, right? And if you are a beginner or maybe you are an intermediate learner, make sure that you do the same thing as I do right now, disturb, because you're going to get into some good habit of doing it enunciating the B sound. And when your pronunciation is better, you can actually stop it. And the stopped B sound is still really distinguishable or noticeable in native speakers' ears as well. So you want to say disturb first before being able to stop it. But how is it going to be stopped? It's going to be disturb, disturb, disturb. The B sound right there is stopped because you put everything that you're using right here, your mouth, your tongue, your teeth, into the position as if you're about to say it. But you are not going to say it, but making a little bit of a sound within your throat and say disturb, disturb.
Now, this word does have many different meanings, but first I'm going to go over the way it was used in the conversation. So the way it was used in the conversation, when you disturb somebody, that means you're bothering them or distracting them while they're doing something else or while they're doing another task. So in the conversation, I said, I don't want our party to disturb other patrons. So as most people know, parties can get really loud, laughing and talking extremely loud, and it can disturb or distract other people in the restaurant, and it can be really rude. So to not disturb other patrons, I wanted a separate room. Now, disturb itself is a verb, but it also has two different forms of adjectives. Disturbed is one of the adjectives, and then disturbing is the other adjective. So the adjective ending in ing, disturbing. Now these adjectives are talking about the quality of something. To paint you a picture, I am disturbing to David. So that means I am annoying to him. I'm doing something to disturb you. And now David is disturbed. He's bothered. He's feeling annoyed. So those are just the different forms of disturbs adjective forms. The first example, I try not to disturb my mom while she reads. So if mom is reading, I can't make a lot of noise to distract her from her reading.
Or in this situation, you don't want to be disturbing to your mom, especially when she's reading.
Maybe she'll get mad if I am disturbing her. I might get into trouble if I start trying to distract her, say, hey mom, hey mom, hey mom.
Right. And another example is, I hate being disturbed while sleeping because it's gonna take me a long time to fall back asleep.
So something distracted you or woke you up from your sleep, and it's going to take you so long to fall back asleep.
Maybe because the plane that is flying over my area is just too disturbing and its noise is like unbearable. That's why I got disturbed while sleeping. And if I am awake because I'm disturbed by the noise of the airplane, then it's gonna take me a long time to fall back asleep.
Number 7, quite a something or quite the something.
So let me get this straight. You're looking for an expensive and family-friendly bistro that has a separate room for your party?
Yeah, it's quite the requirement list, huh?
It is. No wonder that you're having some trouble.
Now the pronunciation you need to be aware of is from quite and or the. All we're going to concentrate on is the connecting sounds. So quite a. We change that T sound in quite to a D sound and take it over to a. Quite a. Now, if it's quite the, then the connecting is going to be different from quite a. So quite the. I stop that T sound in quite and I start saying the. Quite the sound. Quite the.
Now, this expression is used when something is awesome, surprising, or impressive. Going back to the conversation I had with Maddie, I said, it's quite the requirement list. So what is about this requirement list? It's quite impressive. It's quite awesome. It's quite surprising because maybe I probably thought to myself, all the requirements that Maddie had to choose a good restaurant for her party were a little too much. But instead of saying it was a little too much with all the requirements, I said, it is quite the requirement list. Now, when it comes to this phrases usage, be aware of the position of the word quite because it should stand in front of the article, not after it. So going back to the previous example, I said, it's quite the requirement list or it's quite a requirement list. But you can say, it's the quite requirement list or something like that. Now, for the first example, the restaurant was quite an awesome place for couples to go on a date. Maybe that restaurant is an awesome place just because it's beautiful. It has all the settings that couples are in love with. And so it's impressive. That's why I say it's quite an awesome place for couples to go on a date.
Or it might even be surprising when the couples go in there and they see everything and how it's so nicely set up and exquisite. So it is quite an awesome place to go. It is the perfect place to go for couples. Another example, I've been waiting here for quite a long time. So I might be surprised at how long I've been waiting. Maybe I've been waiting 3 to 4 hours to be seen by the doctor. This is actually quite a common phrase, especially when you're talking about how long it takes to see the doctor. So I've been waiting here for quite a long time.
Number 8, to make somebody or something do something. Oh, how about this place? It says that it has a private room for your party with a set menu.
A set menu would certainly make things run smoothly, but how about the price and ratings?
The only pronunciation point you should keep in mind here is the k sound at the end of the word make. When you're saying the word make slowly, make sure that you enunciate the k sound like the way that I'm doing right here. Make, make. But when you're saying it fast, like the way that I am about to say right now, to make something or somebody do something, then it has to be a little bit better or more subtle with the way that you enunciate the k sound. And in order to make it subtle, you should stop it. You should stop it. And how do you stop it? You don't say k, but you put your tongue back into the back of your mouth and stop it right there as if you're about to say it, but you don't say it at all. So the k sound is going to be perfectly stopped right there. So to make, you don't say to make somebody because it takes a little extra effort right there to enunciate the k sound when you say it fast, and it's not going to be smooth or native that way.
Now, to make somebody do something or to make something do something is different from the phrase to have somebody do something. So if you make somebody do something, you are forcing them to do it no matter how unpleasant it may seem. So, for one example, you have to make your children do the chores. So, the children don't want to do the chores, they are unpleasant, so you have to force them to do it. You make them do the chores. With this phrase, make sure to not use to between the two verbs. So don't say, make my children to do the work. Don't say it like that. Just say, make my children do the work. I'll give you one example. Some schools make you buy the uniform even though it's really expensive. So they will force you to buy the uniform. Otherwise, maybe your kid can't attend the school.
It might be a little inconvenient and annoying because now if you want to send your kids to school, you have to meet that mandatory requirement. And the requirement is all about buying the uniform of the school.
So the school is going to make you buy the uniform. They are forcing you, giving you no other option besides buying their uniform.
So another example that I have for you is, don't worry about the card. I'll make it work for you.
So no matter how unpleasant it is to sit there and try to figure out what exactly is wrong with it, you're going to do everything you can to make sure it will work, to force it to work no matter what you have to do.
Maybe you have to spend hours on end to fix it, or maybe you have to take it to a repair store in order to make it work. I'll do it because I'm going to make it work no matter what.
Number 9, ask for something.
It has 4.5-star ratings out of almost 2,000 reviews. And as for the price, I think it's a little bit up there.
Can I see?
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Now the pronunciation you need to be aware of is upon the word for. If you're saying this phrase slow, then of course you're going to say for, enunciated and not changing it at all. But if you're saying it fast, then typically you would want to change for to fur. Fur. This is a lot easier to say, especially when you're speeding up the sentence. As for, as for, as for. A lot of native speakers favor this way rather than saying as for, as for, as for. It's slowing down my speed. So once you get used to this, you can try to speed it up and say fur, fur, as for.
This expression is used when you talk about something new, but it is still related to the entire conversation. It's still connected with the previous piece that you talked about. So going back to the conversation that I had with Maddie. So Maddie was asking me about the ratings and the price of the restaurant. So after providing her with information about the ratings, I went on ahead and I talked about ask for the price. Ask for the price. Because that was also the information that Maddie was asking me for. Now, in this situation, if it didn't use the word ask, it could still make sense, right? But it would have had a very awkward flow because I didn't have the word ask. Now, the first example to help you guys understand this phrase is, everybody won't work on the weekend, but as for me, I still work because I'm the one who takes the customer's phone calls.
It would have been really awkward if you didn't say as for it there. If you had just said, everybody won't work on the weekend, but me, I'm the one that will take everyone's phone calls. It's so awkward that way. So as for here just helps flow to the next thing that is still connected to the conversation. One more example. The hotel seems perfect, but as for the price, it's a bit expensive. So I'm still talking about the hotel. The hotel is still the topic. And if I had just went straight to the price after talking about how perfect it was, it would have been very awkward saying, the hotel seems perfect, the price is expensive. Very awkward. So, but as for the price, it's a bit expensive. It just, again, helps with the flow and adding in more information that is good to know with the rest of the topic.
It's all connected when you have or you add in the word ask right there. So ask for the price because the price is also one of the factors or one of the pieces in that whole package about the hotel, including quality, including the services they have there, including the quality of lunch or maybe meals they have there, and also the price. Number 10, the price of something is a little bit up there or in the middle. It has 4.5-star ratings out of almost 2,000 reviews. And as for the price, I think it's a little bit up there. So the first pronunciation point here is the connection between the word price and of. So you have price of. You link or you take the sound at the end of the word price over to of. So you have price of. Price of. And the next one is going to be about the first phrase you have. So the price of something is a little bit up there. So is a little bit up there. In that particular sentence or phrase, I have two other connections right there. The first one is a, alright? So is a, because is ending with a z sound, and you link it to a, you have is a, and then a little bit, right? A little bit. And then after the word bit, you have the word up. But bit, the T at the end of the word bit in this situation is considered standing in the middle of two vowels. That's why, according to North American English, you can turn the T sound right there into a flat D sound and you say bit up there, bit up there. So the price of something is a little bit up there. Alright? The price of something is a little bit up there. Okay, so practice with this phrase a little slowly at the beginning and speed it up when you are used to it. Alright? But notice that the way that I say it in the conversation is a little bit fast. So make sure that you are able to keep up with that speed and practice to the point that you can say it as fast as I do. And the second phrase doesn't have any connections, so that's why it's very simple and straightforward. That's why we should move on to its usage.
So the first phrase, the price is a bit up there. This means that the price of something is expensive, high priced, or just unaffordable. So it's a bit up there. It's out of your price range. And the next one, if the price of something is in the middle, that just means it's moderately priced, or it's not extremely expensive, but it's not cheap either. So it's in the middle. It's within the range of your budget.
Knowing these phrases and expressions can give you an advantage when it comes to talking about prices, because you don't want to overuse high price, low price, moderately priced, or reasonably priced, or even cheap and expensive, because if you use these words a lot, it's going to become repetitive and also redundant, and you don't want that to happen. And so this should give you more of a variety of expressions and ideas to talk about prices.
I know for sure that these phrases are used quite a bit when it comes to places where you're going to stay. So hotels, apartments, and sometimes even things that you're going to buy. So clothes or just a few other things. The price of the shoes, it's a bit up there, but I think I'll go for them. Rather than saying it's a bit expensive, but I think I'll go for them, it just sounds nicer on the ear by saying it's a bit up there.
And make sure you use the expressions only in informal settings. Let's say you're talking with your friends, you're talking with your family, somebody that you already know for years, but don't ever use this one in formal settings like the way you talk to your boss.
Your boss would want more numbers, so of course you're not going to use these phrases with your boss or where you have to give more specifics. So I'll give you one example. The price of the wedding dress is a bit up there, but I think I'll go for it. So the price of the wedding dress is a little bit out of my price range. Maybe I was budgeting $1,000 for my wedding dress, but it turns out that the one that I want is $1,200. So the price is a bit up there, but I'm still gonna go for it.
Like we said in the previous section, don't try to always go for the lowest or the cheapest one, because it might not work or it might be easily broken or damaged. Alright, so the next example that I have here is, the price is in the middle to stay in a dormitory, but I think I can go lower than that if I find myself a private place.
So the price of the dormitory is in the middle of your budget. Let's say you budget $800 for staying in the dorms or staying wherever. But if you go somewhere else, maybe you can get a lower price, maybe $600 somewhere else.
The price to stay in that dorm is already reasonable, it's moderate, but I want to go lower than that because maybe I don't have a lot of money and I don't mind sharing some of the common spaces or living space with other tenants. That's why maybe finding for myself a private place, finding a shared room with somebody is going to be cheaper.
Number 11, something is off to the side.
Oh, there is this one too, but it isn't a bistro. The price is about in the middle. It has a party room and also an arcade off to the side. It looks pretty family friendly too.
One pronunciation point you need to be aware of is upon the word off. Now, off looks similar to of, so be very careful. Say off. The and then the don't say of. Completely different. Off. Off. And the next pronunciation point is on the word side. Side. Don't say sigh. Sigh. Not correct. Don't drop that D sound. Side. Side. Or you can stop the D. Side. Side. But we don't drop it. Okay? Be very careful with this one. Side. Side. And then side. Side.
If something is off to the side of something else, that means that something is secondary and is located in a corner or somewhere else compared to the main focus, the main object you have here. So going back to the conversation, we said the arcade is off to the side. And off to the side of what? Of the restaurant. So the restaurant is the main place, and the arcade is just the secondary place. And between the two, there's a distance, so that's why you say off to the side. And the reason that we have the word off here is because we want to indicate that there's the distance between the two. Maybe because the two places have a lot of noise, and you don't want them to be overpowering each other. That's why they have to be off from each other, right? So in this case, the arcade is off to the side of the restaurant. Now, the noise in this situation is the reason that the two places have to be a little bit apart from each other. So it's off to the side, so it's not going to overpower or it's not going to disturb one another. But let's give you guys one more example so you know exactly what it means. For example, if you have a garden and you have a lot of sections within that garden, right? So you don't want some of the sections to be very close and next to each other because the nutrition is going to be not good for those sections, right? Some of the vegetables require more nutrition than the others. If you place them next to other vegetables, chances are that the other vegetables are not going to be having enough nutrition, and that's why they're gonna grow poorly. And you don't want that, right? So they have to be off to the side. That means there's a gap, there's a distance between the two sections. Like the example that I have here. Even though my garden is small, they would like to have the patch of tomatoes off to the side of carrots.
So the reason the patch of tomatoes has to be off to the side of the carrots is because maybe the roots of the carrots would overtake the tomatoes and they would die. So you have to have that distance between them, so they have to be off to the side. But carrots are still going to be your main focus. Maybe you like a lot of carrots and not as much tomatoes, but you still want them. So tomatoes are secondary in this case, and carrots are still the main focus. One more example, the dog kennel is built off to the side of the house. So the house is still going to be the main focus, and the dog kennel is secondary, but you don't want the noise of the dogs disturbing people in the house, so you want that little amount of space between the two. So the dog kennel is off to the side.
Number 12. A number and then out of a number of something.
This isn't bad. 4 stars out of 200 reviews.
The connection between the word out and of is the only pronunciation point you should be aware of here. So it's pretty easy and straightforward, but make sure you turn the T sound into a flap D sound in this situation and link it to of. So out of, out of. And the reason being is the T sound is standing just right in the middle of 2 vowels, right? So out of, and then you have the T right there. So out of. Out of. But make sure you have the V sound distinctly pronounced for the word of. Out of. Out of. Don't say out of. Out of. No, it's wrong.
Now to use this phrase, keep in mind there are 2 different numbers. So I'm going to say number A and number B. So number A out of number B, all this means is that number A is calculated or concluded or drawn from number B. Going back to the conversation, the restaurant had 4 stars out of 200 reviews. So that just means that 200 different people rated the restaurant and 4 stars was drawn or concluded out of those 200 reviews. Another way this phrase is used is for ratings. So a lot of people will say maybe 2 out of 10 or 5 out of 10, and this is a way to rate the quality of something. A lot of the time, this is from personal opinions. So 10 being the highest number and also meaning the best, and 1, of course, meaning the lowest. And 5 is going to mean the average. So I'm going to rate my cardigan a 5 out of 10. It's comfortable and it looks nice, but it's not amazing. It's not a 10 out of 10. One last way that this is used is for tests. So typically it would be on a scale from 1 to 100. So I have 80 questions right out of 100. So I only got 80 out of 100. Now, to understand this phrase better, let's give you some examples. So the first example being, the movie is 9 out of 10 in my opinion. So just based upon my rating and of course my opinion, I would say that the movie is great. Is it perfect? Is it completely amazing? Not quite. It's not a 10 out of 10, but it is a 9 out of 10.
And since nothing is absolute and perfect, right, on earth, that's why 9 out of 10 is a very high grade, high score for the quality of something already. It falls into the range from good to excellent. So 9 out of 10 is considered almost perfect. So another example I have here is 5 out of 20 employees at my company got promoted this year. That means amongst 20 people, that's the general number that we have here, but only 5 of them got promoted. That means the number 5 is calculated based upon the bigger number, that is number 20, right?
Number 13, deter.
Well, it's expected to be a bit slower, especially when you have a party. But it's the underflavored food that deters me.
For this word, the pronunciation we're going to concentrate on is upon the short E. Don't change it to the long E. Don't say deter, deter. Not correct. We say deter, deter.
If something deterred somebody from doing something, that means that person just decided to stop doing it because they understood the consequences, the hardship, or even negative outcomes of doing it. So going back to the conversation, so Maddie said the underflavored food deterred her from choosing that restaurant because she understood how bad the food was going to be and it was going to be really problematic and it caused other people, her people, to be upset about the quality, the poor quality of the food. That's why the underflavored food in this situation deterred Maddie from deciding to go with that restaurant. So let's go with the first example so you know how to use this word correctly. The dish looks amazing and delicious, but hearing it's made of snakes deters me from eating it.
So you don't like the taste of snakes, or maybe you're grossed out at the fact that it's made of snakes, so it deters you from trying it. Maybe you wanted to try it when you saw it, but you've decided against it because you knew the negative outcome of what would happen if you did try it.
Maybe that negative outcome can be I am going to vomit afterwards, or maybe I have to be hospitalized.
One more example. With the school's history of violence, it deters me from sending my kids there. So I don't want having my kids subjected or have to be seeing violence in schools. So that's why I decided I'm no longer going to send my kids to that school.
Number 14, to go with something.
I think I'll go with your first find and run it by the others to see if that's where everyone else wants to go.
So there's nothing special about this phrase's pronunciation, but one thing to keep in mind with the word with, if you have the right movement for your tongue, then you'll be able to say it faster with the whole phrase. So for the word with itself, it's a voiceless consonant. So in order to pronounce it correctly, you have to stick your tongue out a little bit, but don't stick it too far out. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot harder for you to say it very smoothly when it comes to saying the whole phrase. So just like that. And then you have to push a little bit of air out of your mouth. And then you have with, right? But when you say this whole phrase, to go with something, the word with, it doesn't require a lot of air. So you just have to make sure that you put your tongue out a little bit. Just like this. To go with something. To go with something. With something. To go with something. And even if you don't push any air out, it's very distinct with the way that you say the TH sound for the word with in the ear of native speakers. And when you reduce the amount of air for the TH sound, the whole thing is going to be a lot easier for you to say. And you can be able to say it faster. So to go with something. To go with something. To go with something. To go with something.
To use this phrasal verb to go with something, what it means is you decide to accept or agree to an opinion or a plan. Going back to the conversation, I said, I'll go with your first show, or I'll go with the first restaurant. All that means is I'm agreeing and accepting that that first restaurant I saw was better, so I decided to go with that restaurant rather than the second one. Now, keep in mind, don't put a person after go with. Otherwise, that means something completely different than this phrase. So if I say, I'm going with David, that's a literal sense. I'm going to follow him out the door. So go with somebody is something different than go with something. So to make this phrase make more sense, let's give you some examples. First example being, out of all of the homes you showed us, we decided to go with the one that has 4 bedrooms. So there's a whole list of homes that we saw, but we decided or accepted to go with the one that has 4 bedrooms.
And in this example, you're not walking anywhere with the house, but you are choosing the house because it has 4 bedrooms and it suits your needs. And my second example for you guys is, after advising my dad about the school that I should attend, he suggested I go with Harvard.
Oh, so out of all of the schools that you were talking to him about, so maybe you listed off 3 other ones along with Harvard, then he suggests you to go with Harvard. He's pushing you or trying to get you to go and accept that plan of going to Harvard.
Maybe he's not pushing, but he's just putting out an idea of the best place that he thinks I should go for a school, for a university, and that place is Harvard.
Number 15, to run something by or past someone.
I think I'll go with your first find and run it by the others to see if that's where everyone else wants to go. Thanks for your help, David.
The only pronunciation point you need to be aware of is upon the R sound in run. Now, it might be easier for you to pronounce this R sound if you stick your lips out and up, like I'm going to do. Run, run. Now, this will look different from how most native speakers pronounce this word. I can say it like run, run. There's a little bit of a different movement with my lips, but again, I can do that because I'm a native speaker. So do what is easiest for you. Again, run, run. Might be a little bit easier. Now, make sure to make that R sound in run really clear and distinct. Don't say run, run. It doesn't sound very good. So run, run.
And you shouldn't roll your tongue too much for the R sound like Spanish people would do. Don't say run. Don't say run. Alright? Now, to run something by or past somebody is to show them or to tell them about that thing in order to have their opinion or in order to have their approval about that. So now let's go back to the conversation I had with Maddie. So Maddie said she's gonna run it by other people to see if they decided to go to that place too. Now, she's telling other people if the restaurant that she chose was also the place that other people would want to go. Now, let us give you some examples. The first one I have is, to make my presentation the best, I have to run it by my wife.
Oh, so you're going to tell your wife and talk to her about the presentation, so maybe she can give you some opinions or check it out to make sure that you are giving the best presentation you can.
I just needed some outsiders' opinions. That's why the best way to go about it is to ask my wife, because she's like really close to me, so she's not gonna judge me that much. And so it's free and it's safe that way. So I would like to run my presentation by my wife or past my wife to make sure it's the best.
One more example. I won't run it by him because he always disapproves of what I say.
Wow. So that guy is really, really harsh and he's really aggressive, or maybe the way that he gives you feedback is not going to be pleasant. That's why you don't want to run anything by him.
I will never have him check my work or tell him anything. I will never run it past him or run it by him because he's so unpleasant. Now, those are all of the 15 phrases for conversation 13. Now, to get the best out of this video, I would suggest re-watching it and maybe shadowing along with some of the examples that we are giving you to really embed those phrases in your head and be able to use them in your own daily conversation.
To help us stay motivated in making more videos or content like this one, please make sure that you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and also subscribe to our channel so we are going to make sure that more videos will be released in the future.
And don't forget to turn on that bell notification, that way you don't miss out on our next upload. Now, that is it for today's video. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.